Hello, my name is Elizabeth, and I'm this week's platform chair. Our speaker is Millard, and he'll be talking about the total well-being of the students and staff members here, covering the mental, the spiritual, and physical well-being. We hope that you're blessed.
Mornings. Morning. Greetings. Happy day. I don't know whose idea it was to work on a quote every morning together, but I think it's a fantastic idea. That's a nice way to have family worship, isn't it? My children are old enough now that they can read, at least the two older ones, and we've been reading the book Patriarchs and Prophets together. So what we do as a family, we read a page or part of a page, each one of us going around. And then after we're done with that, I have my wife, my daughter, and my son, and myself. We all repeat back to the family something that was meaningful to us in what we just read. And so they're learning how to be preachers, right? Isn't that right? You read the Word of God, then you share what the Lord impressed upon your mind. It's good training. So we need to pass on what we learn. But anyway, it's really good to be here today. I told you to remind me to read you a quote, and since I told you to remind me to read you a quote, it reminded me to read you a quote, which I'm going to do. But I'm going to share some things with you this morning. In fact, I'm watching the clock, but really, instead of the presentation being one presentation, it's going to be one presentation in two segments, okay? Because the time will not allow us to finish this morning. So this morning and this evening, I'm going to share with you some things that I have tried to practice through my Christian walk. But in the last 2 months, the Lord, I believe, has given me more information on those things that is very insightful. And I'm going to pass those on to you, and I believe that they will really be a help to you in your personal life. Okay? Now, the quote that I would like to read to you first off. In fact, I will tell you exactly what I'm going to talk to you about this morning and this evening. I'm going to talk to you about three disciplines. One, physical exercise, so that we work on physical improvement. The other thing I want to talk to you about that's very biblical, and that's the subject of meditation. It's very biblical. It's very much in the spirit of prophecy. And by the way, I have some notes here that I've compiled some things, and my plan is to make you photocopies, so anybody that wants a photocopy of these notes, I have several different things, and I have a couple papers that I pass out to people that I canvass, when the need arises, things on the subject of health. So I'm going to make a few things available to you. Hopefully you can stick it in a file and stick it in your mind, and it will help you in your ministry. So what I would like to talk to you about is meditation, physical exercise, and fasting, because I believe that these things are so important to the improvement of spiritual health and physical health in our service to God, and also our connection with Him. Okay? Now, the quote that I wanted to share here, sorry, I have to pull this out, is, and I have some statements here. I may make some copies. And what I did in making these documents, I tried to be very brief, okay, and very to the point and comprehensive. I tried to be careful not to use too many words, just for the sake of time, partly for the sake of time. But here's a statement I would like to read to you. Now, since you are an institution, right? You're a family, but you are an institution. This you should find very interesting and encouraging. This is a statement from the 5th volume of the Testimonies. And I think I'm going to read the whole statement. It's 3 paragraphs. Okay? So just allow me to read this statement. And then I'm going to move on as quickly as I can. Years ago, I saw that our people were far behind in obtaining that knowledge which would qualify them for positions of trust in the cause. Every member of the church should put forth efforts to qualify himself to do work for the master. To each has been appointed a work according to his ability. Even now at the 11th hour, we should arouse to educate men of ability for the work. That they may, while occupying positions of trust themselves, be educating by precept and example all who are associated with them. Through selfish ambition, some have kept from others the knowledge they could have imparted. Did you get that? In other words, people don't pass on to others knowledge for fear that the others will rise up and improve. And do you see that? That's, brother and sister, we got to get out of that spirit. You know, pride is the thing that caused the whole great controversy in the first place. Realize that? And as we draw near the end of time, there's going to be so much love amongst God's people. They're going to be totally living by Philippians chapter 2 that says we should esteem others better than ourselves. We could care less about preeminence, all that. We're going to love each other so much we're going to care less about that. In fact, we're going to be happy when our brother gets way ahead of us. Right? Anyway. Others have not cared to tax themselves by educating anyone else. Too much effort. Yet this would have been the very best kind of work that they could have done for Jesus. Says Christ, "Ye are the light of the world, and for this reason we are to let our light shine before men." If all that the Lord has spoken in reference to these things had been heeded, our institutions would today occupy a higher and holier place than they do. But men have been satisfied with small attainments. Remember in the book Christ's Object Lessons, in the section on the talents, she says, you will rise no higher than the goal you set for yourself. Something to that effect. I'm sorry I'm not quoting it. I should be able to. But she says you're going to rise no higher than the goal you set for yourself. No higher. Okay? And then she goes on to say, then set your mark high and spare no pains to reach the standard. We're doing this for the glory of God. But God wants our betterment. Did you know that Jesus wants you to improve physically, mentally, and spiritually? That your light may so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven? Okay. Anyway, I'm going to start back on this paragraph again. If all that the Lord has spoken in reference to these things had been heeded, our institutions would today occupy a higher and holier place than they do. But men have been satisfied with small attainments. They have not sought with all their might to rise in mental, moral, and physical capabilities. Now listen to this next sentence. They have not felt that God required this of them, comma. They have not realized that Christ died that they might do this very work. Isn't that interesting? They have not sought with all their might to rise in mental, moral, and physical capabilities. They have not felt that God required this of them. They have not realized that Christ died that they might do this very work. As the result, they are far behind what they might be in intelligence and in the ability to think and plan. They could have added virtue to virtue and knowledge to knowledge, and thus have become strong in the Lord. But this they have failed to do. Let each go to work now with a firm determination to rise. Now listen to this last sentence in the quote here. The present need of the cause is not so much for more men as for greater skill and consecration in the laborers. Isn't that interesting? That is so interesting. Okay, The clock says I have about 5 minutes. So what I'm going to do is take that much time or less and give you the one subject, and then I'm going to give you the handout, Lord willing, before I leave here. And where I got this information, now through the years, I have tried to practice some fasting and practice some meditation and practice physical activity. In fact, I do daily exercise. Now this morning I scaled it back and just went 4 miles jogging. But I like exercise and I love physical activity. I loved working with the boys yesterday because at home I cut firewood and burn wood and I grow a garden. You know, I like physical activity. It's satisfying to me, especially after I talk to people a lot all week. Now, this is a lot of fun, but you know, canvassing's not all fun. But anyway, I've been doing it for over 30 years. So anyway, but what I wanted, anyway, where I got this information is from a lady named Barbara O'Neill on YouTube. Okay, maybe some of you have seen her, all right? So she has some very interesting information. And what I'm going to talk to you now about is the interval training. Have you seen her presentation on interval training? Okay, anyway, I'm going to describe it to you a little bit. There's one, okay. Here's what she says. She says a lot of people excuse themselves from daily physical exercise because they say, I'm busy all day long. She said that's a fallacy. You have got to take time for physical exercise. Now her opinion is this. In order to really maintain physical health, you really need to put in 30 minutes a day. For therapeutic purposes, she says about an hour a day. But so in my opinion, if you're just starting out, at least 15 or 20 minutes, you want to bump it up to at least 30 minutes a day of good hard physical exercise. All right. Now, they have found since 1998 that this type of physical exercise that she describes, which I will describe to you now, does some very interesting things. One thing it does is it really picks up the body's ability to burn fat. Now, some of you might be interested in that. The other thing it does is it stimulates a reaction in the brain called neurogenesis, which is releasing a protein, which actually causes the brain to make and create new brain cells. Now, one of the things that she's convinced of, and I think she's on track, is that your brain can continue to improve up until the time you die. She's got a presentation called Rewiring the Brain. Okay? So there's this potential for continual improvement. Now, she mentions a gentleman who was named Dr. Doug McGuff. I've got it here. But anyway, oh, here it is. Now, this type of physical, well, let me first describe this, and then I'll explain this to you a little bit. Back in the 1930s in Germany, there was a physiologist that experimented with high-intensity interval training. And here's what high-intensity interval training is. You do your normal course of exercise. Now, this can be done walking, this can be done riding, a bicycle, this can be done running. You can do this on a rebounder, which my paper will explain how to do it on a rebounder. I've used a rebounder a lot through the years. Right now I use it 10 minutes a day and then run my 6 miles in the morning. But you can do it in various exercises, but it's called high-intensity interval training. Here's what you do. You get warmed up. In my opinion, you need to get warmed up for a while because you're going to be doing high intensity. So in my opinion, you need to exercise for at least 10 minutes before you do this. And then you engage in an all-out spurt of exercise. I mean, you're all out. You're going for it. Now, this trainer, this one Japanese trainer that trained his skaters for the Olympics in the 80s and 90s, he would have them do the all-out spurt for 20 seconds and then have a recovery time of 60 seconds, and they would do that 6 times over. So you do your all-out spurt, then you go back to your normal time and recover, and then you do your all-out spurt, and you go back to your normal time and you recover. All right? So this is creating in the body a better buildup of the mind because it actually causes the brain to release this protein, which stimulates new brain cells. This Dr. Doug McGuff, he experimented with this, and I'm going to read off to you. He said, my brain was clearer. Now, I've been doing this for about close to 2 months now, and I'm convinced there's something to it. I'm convinced of it. Right now I'm up to 25-second spurts. I may eventually get up to 30-second spurts, but 25 seconds is pretty good for me right now. And going beyond that, I'm not. But anyway, this Dr. Doug McGuff, here's what he found. His brain was clearer. I can testify to that. He was sleeping better. He was sparkier and had more energy during the day. His colon worked better. He also experimented with his patients and had some of the following results. Those on high blood pressure medication were coming off their medication. Diabetics were coming off their insulin. Patients on antidepressant medication were able to get along without it. And also they have found that this is superior for breaking down the muscles so that they can rebuild in a superior way. Okay? So physical fitness is like really fundamental. Now my encouragement to you would be this. Now Barbara O'Neill says this, that there was one lady who started this out. She did a 7-second spurt. She was so out of shape it took her 15 minutes to recover. Okay? So you got to start from somewhere. So my suggestion would be, in the normal course of your exercise, maybe you're not exercising except you're busy here, okay? But my encouragement to you would be to spend at least 15 minutes in the morning before breakfast, sometime. There's enough lights around the campus you can run around even in smaller circles if you have to. And spend at least 15 minutes either walking or running or whatever you choose. Well, walking and running would be the main things. My encouragement to you would be to spend at least 15 minutes every morning and do some of this high-intensity interval training. And also my suggestion would be to start out with 5-second spurts. Okay? Do your all-out spurt, then recover. Do your all-out spurt, and then recover. And this is going to help build your health up in a good way. I know myself, even if I'm home, I'm going to go out and cut firewood for the day, I still want to do my morning exercise because I feel a sense of energy for the rest of the day. You oxygenate the body, you get the metabolic rate going at a better rate, and you're just going to improve your health nicely, okay? So this evening, in the few minutes that we have this evening, and I'll pass out, Lord willing, some papers. I'm going to talk to you about meditation. In lecture time, I'll spend the most time on meditation, and I'll spend a little bit of time on fasting because the papers will explain themselves, I think, pretty well. But I would verbally like to explain some things to you. But the quote that we read today, she says, men have not sought with all their might to rise in mental and physical and spiritual power. Was it spiritual? Anyway, I don't want to misquote it. But she says they have not realized that Christ died that they might do this very work. Okay? Pardon? Yeah, moral power. Thank you for the correction. So anyway, the Lord wants to unleash on the world in these last days people who are specimens of the transforming power of the gospel. And as Paul said, and the very God of peace sanctify you wholly. And I pray, God, your whole spirit and soul and body be preserved blameless unto the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. You have a blessed day, and please, I will be praying for you. Please pray for our meeting this evening, and we'll look forward to it tonight, okay?